going to try to explain how to do the site plan. There's a few things that I did not provide information on. I probably should have caught this early on. So as you're going through the textbook and then you look at the chapter on how to lay out the site plan on CAD, of course I'm already in our template, or the template that I created for the class. Got the site plan information up and ready. I'm on the properties. But when you start looking at some of the examples, they're just giving you distances and give you maybe one bearing and everything else is maybe perpendicular. So it's kind of easy to just go in what you normally do with a line command. So just an example, if I were doing a line command for a part, I'd start, I would start here, follow there, go here, here, and I might close back on or end like that. What happens sometimes on the legal description, so looking at a picture is entirely different of creating than reading through point by point. So I'm just going to quickly go through and review the problem 1010. Let me erase all of this. Okay, so using the following legal description. It's a parcel in a tax lot of an addition that's in a section 12, township 3 north, I don't remember what the R1 east, 6 principal meridian. So if you look back at the chapter that discusses townships, then you can kind of look through page 232 or figure 9.6 talks about that, what that description looks like in that range. Range 1 east. So that's what the R means. So we're looking at things that are situated in these little squares. So the first thing you want to think about is they're situated in squares. They're blocked off. So the lines are going to kind of run parallel to each other. So that's one key that you just may not have clued in because this is all new. So I don't expect you to know everything. So it tells you where it's going to start at an iron rod marking the southerly corner. So if I was going to go south, our computer shows north top, south bottom. So we're just going to say that there's like a rod right here where my cursor is showing. That's going to be, and then the true point of beginning of the southeast property corner. So southeast would be more in this direction. So we got north, south, east, west. So southeast is kind of over here. So if I just say I'm southeast, I'm going to start my first property line picking randomly because again, you have an infinite drawing space here. When we get to the tab for the site, then we will see it to scale in that space. So it says we're going to go a distance. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put in that distance, 185 feet, and then less than, because these are essentially polar coordinates. Now, whether we've got the polar coordinates set up to recognize them as just decimal degrees or surveyor units, it really doesn't matter. AutoCAD is intuitive that it kind of knows when you start putting in weird variables like in first that it's going to be a surveyor's unit. So we're putting in north, 49, and the D symbol, because we don't use, we can't like put in the actual degree symbol like you see in the book, 50, and then feet, and then end it with the W, which is west. So it's recognizing we're going to draw this line straight up, but slightly, well actually not slightly, 49 degrees, 50 minutes towards the west. So it's going to kind of go, follow my cursor, it's going to kind of go off this way. And that's what it did. Now it's off the screen, so we're going to zoom out a little bit. So the next one, if I was going to draw it, said property lies 32 feet north of the center of Miller Drive. So that's just different information it's providing you. So then we're going to go north 65 degrees, 15 minutes east at 104.50. So I'm going to put in 104.50 feet less than north 65 degrees, 15 minutes east. Now if you think about it, it is going to go off this direction. So that would be pretty normal looking. Now the next one says it's going to go northwest again. Well, which way was northwest? Back this way. So it's like, whoa, that doesn't look right. But look at the angle. It is almost parallel to the very first one that we used, north 49 degrees 50. It is a different distance, so it's 147 feet less than north 49 degrees west. So you're thinking, wait a minute. So I've hit cancel just so you can see it. That went way off up here. But they are slightly parallel. So in surveying, you've got equipment error, you've got user error, you've got data recording error. I'm not saying there's an error in this, but that 50 seconds is going to make it a little wonky looking. So it's not exactly parallel, but it's so close. You know, in the big scheme of 185 feet, you're not going to notice that they're not absolutely parallel. And again, if you don't put a fence directly going in that line, you're not going to ever see that. So what that does, though, the way they wrote the description is it's like a zigzag. Well, that it can't be, because we're doing a closed loop piece of property. So they don't, in these townships or in these legal descriptions, always write it from the point of beginning. They write it as if it's a piece, whatever the angle is from wherever they're shooting. So they may never have picked up their total station or their transit tripod and moved it to know the actual, if it's southeast. So basically, it is going southeast. What we're going to do is we're going to take and move that line from its endpoint to that endpoint so that we can make this start to look like a closed loop piece of property. And again, semi-parallel northwest, if you look at this, northwest and southeast, they are exact opposites. Now we're going to draw the last line. And I'm going to go from that point. It is 93 feet north, I can't even find the piece of paper, north 43 degrees 30 seconds east. Okay, so again, opposite direction. It needs to actually come back down. So again, I'm going to take it and move it from its endpoint to that endpoint. And now you think, oh, I have a piece of property, it's closed, it bound itself. But if we go back and look at the gap. So again, when I'm talking about human error, equipment error, setup error, data error, there must have been something as they were shooting those lines of sight that made that off. So it's actually not a closed loop. And you can see that the distance is so minimal, like 11 inches. You know, so it's not a big deal. However, I know as a student, you want it to look perfect and you don't want a big gap there. So I'm just going to say, go ahead and close the loop by just drawing that last line to where it connects at that first endpoint. So on your drawing, you're just going to fix it like that. And that will give you the problem 1010. Now, we're not going to go into a whole lot of other things right now. We do know that the said property is 32 feet north of the center of Miller Drive. Well, Miller Drive would be on this side. So I could offset 32 feet this way, and that would become my center line to a road. I don't really have another option, but I could make that center line to my road. And then the last piece is we're going to make sure that we add the information to the sides. So I'm going to go back to my properties, annotate. I'm not using dimension, I'm going to be using text. And I'm going to use multi-line text. Pick where I want to place it. Now the height, here's where you have probably not used this enough to know. So we're working in civil units. So if you think about an architectural drawing, Our scale is 1/4 inch equals a foot. So if you put something on here at 0.125 and you've got a drawing that, again, is 185 feet, you're never going to see that text. So we need to know and identify what the scale of the drawing is and what that scale factor is. So in this particular case right now, excuse me, we've been looking at possibly 1 inch to 10 feet, 1 inch to 20 feet, and I might play with this just for a minute just to see what we have. So back in Chapter 3, so if you had CAD 120 before, then you'd be familiar, but it's the same textbook. Talks about civil engineer scale, talks about the scales, multiples of 10, 100, 1,000, whatever it is. So what we're looking at saying is if we do a 1 inch equals 20 feet, then your scale factor ends up being 240. So I would take 240 times 0.125, and find out that my text height actually needs to be 30 inches for me to be able to see this. So I'm just taking scale factors times what size I know the text should be on a finished product, which is usually 1/8 of an inch, and that becomes my text height.